alumni associations that have boards, are full-blown alumni associations. They have advisory councils. They do galas. They do scholarship fundraising, and then they also award scholarships from those organizations. Similarly, we have women's groups that fall sort of under this category, as well as our Alumni Veterans Network that falls under this category. And with our women, there has been so much talk and so much emphasis on feminine-based or feminine quality leadership, also needs and interests of women. How can we speak directly to them? And this has been very important for the university and the Alumni Association, because just within the last, I want to say 10 to 15 years, what used to be a very small percentage of our student body has now become the small majority of our student body. So our women's student body is just over 51%, and our alumni base is mirroring that now as well. So that's really exciting, and also a reason for us to carve out our program and really speak to this audience in a way that hasn't been done in a number of years.
Well, thank you. That demographic, it sounds like, I mean, obviously you're in this business, so, but my sense from all the reading that I do is that demographic is just going to keep trending upwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, so I know that you're planning your conference for next March, and as I mentioned earlier, you and I actually met through the Women's Conference. So you had invited me to speak there about 7 years ago. And I'm just wondering if you can tell us why you think that there is such a power in these programs, Danielle, and such a hunger for them as well.
Yes, you know, that is a great question, and I wish I had a short answer for it. I think that as women, there is so much power that gets created. And again, I'm a creative person, so I'm all about this. When we're all in a room together. And Gloria, if I could, and you would have to correct me on this quote, but one of the first sentences that you ever shared with us in this setting at the Women's Conference was that 21st century women are one of the most powerful forces on the planet, and I'm paraphrasing, so you'll have to correct me if I didn't get that quite right. But those words and that sentiment really stuck with me, because as we are looking at movements, as we're looking at the shift that's happening, you know, definitely within our country, within politics, within leadership, within business, people are paying attention to what is that powerful source. Are we sourcing it correctly? Are we channeling it to our fullest potential and to our fullest benefit? And then are we paying attention to it in a way that allows us all to become better? Again, I think it just goes to being the human race. Are we maximizing our fullest potential? And I think the answers, and people believe, not just me, the answer is within, you know, that feminine quality, force, all of that. So I personally can't possibly put that, I think, into words, but just my own feeling is there is something there that we all need to pay attention to.
Absolutely, and I think you actually did a beautiful job of summing that up. I mean, we could probably spend the whole program just talking about that one question, Danielle, so thank you for your summary. You know, I was in Nigeria last fall, and I had a wonderful opportunity to spend about maybe a half a day with a gal who has organized an international women's conference, and she was on the cusp of celebrating her 20th year. Wow. And one of the things that she talked about, I mean, she was kind of, you know, we talked about it. She was also brainstorming about, like, what would be the best theme or topic or way to kind of just galvanize and pull things together for this 20th anniversary. And, you know, one of the things she talked about was what you pointed out, and that's that feminine quality. Okay, the feminine quality of leadership. And there's something that we have as women that we we can't afford to give up. I know over the years that I've been in the business sector, in particular in education as well, a lot of women, they want to go along to get along, and they want to give up some of the qualities that they have, particularly, so that they fit in with the men. And I'm going like, no. There is such diversity that we can offer when we put ourselves at the table, bringing those feminine qualities, those feminine attributes that will be missing if we don't bring them to the table. And so, Danielle, I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about how do you come up with your amazing themes for the various conferences. I mean, to me, they kind of build over the arc of the 10 years that you've had your signature impress on them. And so I'm just wondering if you could talk with us a little bit about, so how do you do that?
Thank you. That is a question that, again, I could speak endlessly about it, but I will say that, and this might be a little too spiritual for some people, so forgive me if you are a person who is in your head. I'm going to go into my heart for a second.
Oh, go there, please.
So this conference is very near and dear to my heart, in a way that, for me, if I did not get paid to do it, to produce it year over year, I would still do it. This is what I call a passion project. And so I never approach it. To this point, I have not approached it as just something else on my to-do list. So when I am preparing for it, when I am thinking about what are we going to talk about at the conference, what's the conversation at the conference this year, I'm doing that from listening, from having conversations with people that I trust, like you, Gloria. We've done that a number of years. And then also just paying attention to what women that I work with, I admire, women that I myself don't understand, but I want to know more about. And when I tune into all of those things, then the conference reveals itself to me. So I know I said I'm creative, but this is not something that I feel that I can really take credit for creating. I think it's something that just happens when I allow it to flow in the way that it is going to flow. So I always say I just get out of the way and let the, and let the good work happen. And I think, other creative souls would actually describe their process very similar, songwriters or poetry. I think this is something that can be described in a similar way. It happens, and it's just my job to be in tune and to listen for, and then to bring all those wonderful things together.
Yes, I totally get what you're saying. I totally get it. And, thank you. And you have to be open and have that sense that you talked about earlier, Danielle, that sense of curiosity and discovery and being an open vessel so that the ideas can flow in and come through you.
Absolutely. It's funny. I will have conversations with anyone because I never know where the inspiration is going to come from. In fact, I was having a conversation with a fundraiser of all people, right? We typically don't see them as being inspirational, but I was inspired by something a fundraiser said in a conversation that we were just kind of spinning ideas around, or she actually called me and said, hey, I want to share a few things with you. Do you have time? And I said, absolutely, I will make time. And she was talking, and I was listening, and let me be honest, sometimes I have to tell myself to put aside my judgment, right? So when you're listening is a very, it has to be active. And sometimes what we end up doing is waiting for our turn to respond, right? Waiting for, now you're going to say something, I'm going to say something. So I have to sometimes tell myself to shut off and listen and just, to your point, be open and receive the information without judging. That is a very tough thing to do. But as long as we practice it, it's something that we can get better at. And it's even something, going back to just working with my staff, it's something that I've had to even do with my staff, people that I'm supervising. I have to receive their information, take in their information, and reserve judgment. Put it all to the side and listen to what they're really saying. And again, there are days when I am worse at it than I should be and better at it than I'm surprised by. So in this particular case, going back to the women's conference, it is important to be inquisitive, to be open, and to receive the information until we're ready to pull it all together and then come out with a plan.
Yes, I can. I don't know what your office looks like, but I imagine it as a studio, kind of like a little artist's atelier where you have these ideas just kind of flowing and going through you all the time, it seems like.
Yeah, I wish it was like that. Now you're giving me inspiration. I think I may actually move some things around so I can create that. That sounds cool.
Okay. Well, I heard you talk about the conference, and you use these words, passion project, and I know you just spoke to that, Danielle, but is there anything more that you want to say about that in terms of why this is your passion project?
Absolutely. Again, in full disclosure, I was raised by a single mom who was also a creative soul, who worked so hard, sometimes for not a whole lot. And that really affected me as a young person watching that. And I always wanted things to not be so hard for my mother. And so when I work on the women's conference, I'm usually thinking about what are those things that are going to make life not so hard for the women who are out here just trying to make a way. Be it, and not everyone's life is hard. I get that. So it's not always about the struggle. But sometimes it is just about bringing women together so they can say, oh, are you also going through that? Well, I am going through that. Sometimes it's just an aha moment. Sometimes this is just a feel-good moment. And there are women who come, and it's a great day to dress up and see their friends, and life is great for them, and great. I'm glad they come, and I'm glad they have a good time. There are other women who are coming to this conference and looking for tools to land their next job, tools to balance their financial matters and to manage and lead their financial matters so they can have better lives, easier lives, whatever is of interest to them. So I think, again, to answer your question, Gloria, this is such a passion project for me because as women, we should be empowering one another, and we should be helping each other to find answers. Sometimes it's just, where do I go for this? There are women who are trying to answer questions, and I hope that at this conference those questions can be answered. I don't know if I answered your question. Speaking of answering questions, did I answer your question?
That's a great answer. As you were talking, I was just sitting here thinking, I'm a USC alum too, and I remember, I got 2 degrees there, Danielle, and I remember that USC attracts people from all walks of life. There's some people who are very well off in terms of financial means, and there's some people who are just struggling, and they're just barely making it. There are a lot of first-generation students there, and I was just sitting here smiling just because your motivation for what you do and having your mom as the inspiration, I think, reaches so many women across that spectrum of life circumstances, and it touches their hearts. It touches them where they need to be. I think you meet people where they are. And I was just sitting here just glowing because I'm so glad that you're in this very influential position at USC and can impact the lives of so many, I'm going to say women in particular for this conference, but also just alums in general, men and women across the board. Yeah.
Thank you.
I know we're getting close to the hour, and I know you're a very busy woman.
Yes.
So I just want to be respectful of your time. Danielle, is there anything that you want to tell us about your 10th annual conference, your vision for it, or are there